Welcome to our Wesley Bible class. Today we are going to be studying another terrible chapter of Judges, chapter 9, okay? And again, the disclaimer is this is not necessarily for kids. You would think that everything in the Bible would be like, no problem for children's books and Sunday school lessons, and chapter 9 and chapter 8 of Judges come along and you just say, gosh, I don't know if I'm going to turn my kids loose on this one. So, but anyway, I just want you to know that chapter 9 is again another rough chapter. There aren't very many chapters in Judges that aren't rough. So if you're going to steer your kids someplace, I'd steer them in the Bible somewhere away from Judges. It's just, you wonder how some of this stuff gets in the Bible, but it's life. It's life. The thing that I appreciate, because I'm kind of a historian guy, this is an extremely rich history. And the thing that's, I think, really fascinating about this, about history in the Bible, is that, yes, you get the opinions of kings and you get the propaganda, and there's parts of, a lot of Judges is really an advocacy for monarchy, but not the kind that we're going to see in chapter 9. And so you get these different perspectives all through these histories. And I think it's important to understand as you read through the Bible that you are reading about a process more than an event. What we're seeing all through the Old Testament is a process. And you see something of a process in the New Testament where you go from an entirely Jewish congregation to a mixed congregation and then to a primarily Gentile congregation. So there are progressions that happen in the Bible. And so it's important when you read the Bible that you don't get stuck in one place. Okay? One of the problems that you have with some other faiths that are absolutist in their perspective on their founding documents is that they get stuck in one place, and then you have cultures that don't progress. You have cultures that are stuck so far in the past that they don't know what to do with the advances of civilization that have taken place, and you start justifying behaviors that you should never justify today. What we're going to see in Judges today is a perfect example of things that should not be justified. Just because it's in the Bible doesn't mean it should be justified. In fact, it was put in the Bible so you would know not to justify it. So anyway, we're going to be learning a little bit about how a leader is selected and what brought it on, and how that early monarchy not only began, but how it transpired and then ended. We're going to be talking about Abimelech. Now, Abimelech was the son of Jerubbaal. Now, Jerubbaal is Gideon. Okay, so whenever they mention Jerubbaal, it's really Gideon. Okay, he's the son of Jerubbaal, and he went to Shechem to his mother's kinfolks and said to them and to the whole clan of his. Well, wait a minute. I didn't finish chapter 8, did I? I think I need to go and find the back end of chapter 8 because we didn't quite get through it. Let's see if I still have that. Okay, this is beginning at verse 29 in chapter 8 because we didn't quite finish it out. Jerubbaal, son of Joash, went to live in his own house. Now Gideon had 70 sons, his own offspring, for he had many wives. Let's hope he did. His concubine, who was in Shechem, also bore him a son, and his name was Abimelech. All right, so we get an idea of who Abimelech is. He is the son of a slave woman who is from Shechem. Okay, then Gideon, son of Joash, died at a good old age and was buried in the tomb of his father Joash at Ophrah of the Abiez. Always have trouble with this. Abizrites. Okay. As soon as Gideon died, the Israelites relapsed and prostituted themselves with Baals, making Baal Berit their god. The Israelites did not remember the Lord their God, who had rescued them from the hand of all their enemies on every side, and they did not exhibit loyalty to the house of Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, in return for all the good that he had done for Israel. So now you have kind of the backdrop of what's going on here. Okay, so now we're going to Abimelech, son of a slave, from Shechem. Now, Abimelech, son of Jerubbaal, went to Shechem, to his mother's kinsfolk, and said to them, and to the whole clan of his mother's family, say in the hearing of all the lords of Shechem, which is better for you, that all 70 of the sons of Jerubbaal rule over you, or that one rule over you? Remember also that I am your bone and your flesh. So his mother's kinsfolk spoke all the words on his behalf in the hearing of the lords of Shechem, and their hearts inclined to follow Abimelech, for they said, he is our brother. All right, let's find out a little bit about Shechem. Shechem is a very important region, northern part of Judah. It's where Jacob is buried. It is a place, they say, of blessings and curses. So it's kind of an official. If you're going to do something and have the imprimatur of officialdom on it, you go and make the pronouncement in Shechem. And when there was a split in Israel, Rehoboam, son of Solomon, was coronated at Shechem, and then Jeroboam, who was from the northern kingdom, he was coronated also in Shechem and made Shechem his capital, just to show them. Okay, so Shechem is a pivotal place. Whoever's running Shechem is kind of, Shechem's the place to go. Okay, so he's from Shechem, and he tells him, I'm blood of your blood, flesh of your flesh. So his mother's kinsfolk spoke all the words on his behalf in the hearing of the lords of Shechem, and their hearts inclined to follow Abimelech, for they said, he is our brother. They gave him 70 pieces of silver out of the temple of Baal Beret. Now that is a pagan temple at Shechem. All right? With which Abimelech hired worthless and reckless fellows who followed him. Watch out where your campaign funds are being spent. Okay? That could come back on you. Okay. Of course, you have to understand that there was a period in David's life where he also hired worthless and reckless fellows. Okay? And they did about the same thing that Abimelech's about to do. All right. He went out to his father's house in Ophrah and killed his brothers, the sons of Jerubbaal, 70 men on one stone. But Jotham, the youngest, Jotham, I guess, the youngest son of Jerubbaal, survived, for he hid himself. Then all the lords of Shechem and all Beth Millo came together, and they went and made Abimelech king by the oak of the pillar at Shechem. Now, when people ask who was the first king of Israel, you might say it was Saul. But then again, it might have been Abimelech. Okay? Abimelech was the king of Israel, just like, oh gosh. I'm trying to think of the lawyer from Williamsburg. Begins with an R. Reynolds was the first president of the United States, because he was the president of the Continental Congress. So the first constitutional president of the United States was George Washington. But this Reynolds guy, a prominent lawyer, he was the first president. We went to Reynolds' house, right? Oh, it's not his name. Randolph. It was Randolph. That's right. It was Randolph. He was the first president of the United States under the Continental Congress. Okay? But Washington was the first president under the Constitution of the United States. So, anyway, so Abimelech was the king of Israel in the same sense that Reynolds might have been the first, or Randolph might have been the first president. But he really was very local. He really didn't have any influence too much outside of the region of Shechem. Okay, so you can't really call him the king of Israel. It doesn't mean that the other tribes recognized him as the king. But he's the first one who was declared to be a king within the confines of Israel. Okay? All right. When it was told to Jotham, he went and stood on the top of Mount Gerizim and cried aloud and said to them, "Listen to me, you lords of Shechem, so that God may listen to you." This is a warning about monarchies. Okay? It's a poem. The trees once went out to anoint a king over themselves. So they said to the olive tree, "Reign over us." The olive tree answered them, "Shall I stop producing my rich oil by which gods and mortals," gods, okay, and mortals are honored, and go to sway over the trees? Then the trees said to the fig tree, "You come and reign over us." But the fig tree answered them, "Shall I stop producing my sweetness and my delicious fruit, and go to sway over the trees?" Then the trees said to the vine, "You come and reign over us." But the vine said to them, "Shall I stop producing my wine that cheers gods and mortals, and go away to the tree, and go to sway over the trees?" So all the trees said to the bramble, "You come reign over us." And the bramble said to the trees, "If in good faith you are anointing me king over you, then come and take refuge in my shade," which was a very common way of saying that you're under my domain. Okay, kings referred to this later. You're in my shade. Okay, but if not, let fire come out of the bramble and devour the cedars of Lebanon. All right. This is a story about kings, and there is no good way to impeach a king. The only way you impeach a king is by assassination. Okay? No term limits. All right? So it's not like nominating a president. Once you crown the king, it ain't that easy to get it off his head. So unless you take the head with it. So that's basically the way kings go, unless they are successful in giving it to their prodigy. Now, this is not just a caution, but this is also a prophecy. And you're going to see some ironies taking place as this story unfolds, okay? But one of the things that I think is interesting is that people who are generally productive and enjoying their productivity don't get into politics because they have found fulfillment in their business or the life that they're living, okay? So what kind of person do you have normally going into politics? You know? And one of the things that I think is a caution for us in this country is that we're making it very, 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 very difficult to get good people to go into politics, because as soon as you do that, you're going to get ruined. There's going to be all kinds of, it doesn't matter how good you were before. Once you announce, then the dogs of war are unleashed on you, and things get really bad. So it's hard for us to find good people to go into high office in this country because of the level of attack that takes place, and the besmirching and the backbiting and all of the rest that goes into it. So if you're going, it's a dirty game.
So why did he kill his brothers and sisters?
He just killed his brothers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And their sons.
And their sons, yeah. So, yeah, he did that because if you're the king, you don't want a rival.
That's what I figured.
That's it. Okay. Now therefore, if you acted in good faith and honor when you made Abimelech king, and you have dealt well with Jerubbaal and his house, and have done to him as his actions deserve. Okay, what he's saying is, look, you look at the way my dad, Gideon, protected the country and you prospered under the country, and now are you really honoring him by anointing his slave son as king? Okay. For my father fought and risked his life and rescued you from the hand of Midian, but you have risen up against my father's house this day and have killed his sons, 70 men on one stone, and have made Abimelech, the son of a slave woman, king over the lords of Shechem, because he is your kinsman. If I say to you, you have acted in good faith and honor with Jerubbaal and his house in this day, then rejoice in Abimelech, and let him also rejoice in you. But if not, let fire come out from Abimelech and devour the lords of Shechem and Beth Millo, and let fire come out from the lords of Shechem from Beth Millo and devour Abimelech. Then Jotham ran away and fled, going to Beer, where he remained for fear of his brother Abimelech. Good move. Now, what this means also is that Abimelech is not king over Beer. Okay? So there are regions in Israel where his reign is not recognized. Okay, now we're going to get into the downfall of Abimelech, which is a rough one. In verse 22, Abimelech ruled over Israel 3 years, not a long reign. Okay? But God sent an evil spirit between Abimelech and the lords of Shechem, and the lords of Shechem dealt treacherously with Abimelech. Well, they were kind of being treacherous when they made Abimelech the king to begin with. So now they're having second thoughts. We call it buyer's remorse. And, given what we're just going through, there might be a little bit of that going on in the near future. So, anyway, now you're having problems because while they made him a king, they're not necessarily recognizing his authority as king. God sent an evil spirit. How does God send an evil spirit? Is God in charge of the evil spirits? So when we see evil spirits at work, is this at God's order? I mean, it's fully appropriate that that this kind of contention take place with a guy like Abimelech. But is God responsible for evil? The question is raised. Okay? And the question is raised, does God bring about evil? And it's something embedded in the Lord's Prayer, lead us not into temptation. And, the Pope has tried to restate that kind of language, or given it an interpretation lately. But that's always been really a conundrum for us when we say the Lord's Prayer and we ask God not to lead us into temptation. Well, who leads us into temptation? Evil spirits. Well, it's in your Bible. I'm just saying. It's hard. It's a hard thing to think of. But you see that happens from time to time, where he hardens Pharaoh's heart and makes it even worse for his people. Okay. You see this happening with Saul. You see it happening with a number of people. Judas. Where Jesus knows what he's going to do and says, "Go do it." We see these things happen from time to time, and we wonder, does God not just allow evil in the world, but is God a participant And a verse like this raises the question. And I know for people of faith, to even raise that question is considered a heresy, a disrespect for God, or a questioning of God. But as we go through the Bible, we see from time to time that God sends a lying spirit, sends an evil spirit. God sends. And this happens mostly in the Old Testament. But it's to lead an evil person into more evil. So someone who is prone to evil, God just kind of amplifies it and sustains it. And it's hard for us to understand this dichotomy. But it is a question that is raised primarily in the Old Testament, and it's one I think that people of faith need to look at it and see what's going on, and not just take a look at the event that involves an evil or lying spirit, but to see the outcome. Can God use evil to bring about a better outcome?
I can't question that he couldn't.
Huh?
I don't question that he couldn't do it.
People asked Martin Luther, great Reformation leader, how you could explain a just God and a devil at the same time. And Luther said, he's God's devil. God created him. Tough answer. But you can see that it's not beyond the realm of Christianity to look at these things. And when you see evil happening in the world, to ask, how can God let this happen? Sometimes that's a good question. Most of the time the answer is, I don't know, how could you let it happen? So anyway, he sends an evil spirit. This happened so the violence done to the 70 sons of Jerubbaal might be avenged, and their blood be laid on their brother Abimelech, who killed them, and on the lords of Shechem, who strengthened his hand to kill his brothers. So the lords of Shechem set ambushes against him in the mountains. They robbed all who passed by them along that way, and it was reported to Abimelech. When Gaal means, comes from a verb meaning to abhor. Okay. Gaal, son of Ebed, moved into Shechem with his kinsfolk. The lords of Shechem put confidence in him. They went out into the field and gathered the grapes from their vineyards, trod them and celebrated. Then they went into the temple of their god, ate and drank, and ridiculed Abimelech. Good thing, you can do stuff like that when you get drunk. Gaal, son of Ebed, said, "Who is Abimelech, and who are we of Shechem that we should serve him? Did not the son of Jerubbaal and Zebul, his officers, serve the men of Hamor, father of Shechem? Why then should we serve him? If only his people were under my command, then I would remove Abimelech. I would say to him, increase your army and come out." Yeah. Okay, that's basically it. Well, when you're going to invite somebody into combat, you better figure out who could win. Okay. When Zerubbabel, ruler of the city, heard the words of Gaal, son of Ebed, his anger was kindled, and he sent messengers to Abimelech at Arumah, saying, "Look, this is Zebul. He is the ruler of the city where Ebed came in." Okay, he's the mayor. "Look, Gaal, son of Ebed, and his kinsfolk have come to Shechem, and they are stirring up the city against you. Now therefore go by night, and the troops who are with you, and lie in wait in the fields. Then early in the morning, as soon as the sun rises, get up and rush on the city, and when he and the troops who are with him come out against you, may you deal with them as best you can." So Abimelech and all the troops with him got up by night, lay in wait against Shechem in 4 companies. When Gaal, son of Ebed, went out and stood at the entrance of the gate of the city, Abimelech and the troops who with him rose from the ambush. And when Gaal saw them, he said to Zebul, "Look, the people are coming down from the mountaintops." And Zebul said to him, "The shadows on the mountains look like people to you." I love this. Gaal spoke again and said, "Look, people are coming down from Tabuz Erez, and one company is coming from the direction of Elon Meonim." And Zerubbabel said, "Where is your bows? Now you who said, who is Abimelech, that we should serve him? Are not these the troops you made light of? Go out now and fight them." So Gaal went out at the head of the lords of Shechem and fought with Abimelech. Abimelech chased him, and he fled before him. Many fell wounded up to the entrance of the gate. So Abimelech resided at Arumah, and Zebul drove out Gaal and his kinfolk so that they could not live on at Shechem. So the mayor kicked him out, all right? But Abimelech is living in his town now. On the following day, the people went out into the field. When Abimelech was told, he took his troops and divided them into 3 companies and lay in wait in the field. When he looked and saw the people coming out of the city, he rose against them and killed them. Now, this is the mayor's people. Okay? And they had nothing to do with the politics. They're just like serfs, you know? And he goes out and kills them all. Then Abimelech and the company that was with him rushed forward and stood at the entrance of the gate, while 2 companies rushed on all who were in the fields and killed them. Abimelech fought against the city all that day. He took the city and killed the people who were in it, and he razed the city and sowed it with salt. That way he can't grow anything again. Okay? I mean, he's acting very badly. When all the lords of the Tower of Shechem heard of it, they entered the stronghold of the temple of El Berit. Abimelech, who was told that all the lords of the Tower of Shechem were gathered together, so Abimelech went up to Mount Zalmon, he and all the troops who were with him. And Abimelech took an axe in his hand, cut down a bundle of brushwood, and took it up and laid it on his shoulder. Then he said to the troops with him, "What have you seen me do? Do quickly as I have done." So every one of his troops cut down a bundle, and following Abimelech, put it against the stronghold, and they set the stronghold on fire over them, so that all the people of the Tower of Shechem also died, about 1,000 men and women. Now remember, we're talking 1,000 is like all of them. Okay, so he killed everybody in the tower. All right, now let's go back to Jotham's little poem, and he said, "If in good faith you are anointing me king over you, then come and take refuge in my shade, but if not, let the fire come out of the bramble and devour the cedars of Lebanon." Okay, so you see a fulfillment there. Okay. Then Abimelech went to Thebez, which had nothing to do with all this, another town, and encamped against Thebez and took it. But there was a strong tower within the city, and all the men and women and all the lords of the city fled to it and shut themselves in, and they went to the roof of the tower. Abimelech came to the tower and fought against it and came near the entrance of the tower to burn it with fire. All right. But a certain woman threw an upper millstone on Abimelech's head and crushed his skull. There you go. Serves him right. Immediately he called the young men who carried his armor and said to him, "Draw your sword and kill me, so people will not say about me, a woman killed him." See, because that would really be embarrassing. That's just, I mean, that's like that guy that got the spike through his head, you know? It's just, yeah, you know. So, yeah. So the young man thrust him through, and he died. When the Israelites saw that Abimelech was dead, they all went home. Thus God repaid Abimelech for the crime he committed against his father in killing his 70 brothers, and God also made all the wickedness of the people of Shechem fall back on their heads, and on them came the curse of Jotham, son of Zerubbabel. Now, what are some of the characteristics about Abimelech that are not like the characteristics of Saul and David? Well, one of them was that he was elected. It was a democratic process that made him king. So we're going to throw out democracy because people are stupid and they don't know who to vote for. And many people feel that way today. So that's one thing. He was not anointed king by a prophet of the Lord. He was a pagan, and the people who elected him were pagans. So that's another thing. And, you know, I'm looking at this, and, you know, Abimelech might have been considered a great leader because he went out ahead of the troops, you know, follow me kind of thing, okay? And I know that the motto of the infantry school at Fort Benning is "Follow me." Got a guy, a lieutenant or something leading, follow me. Okay, he's got his hand up waving like that. Well, if you are a really good leader, if you're a leader of troops, like let's say you're a platoon leader, okay? I had a good friend who was in combat quite a bit in Vietnam, and he was a platoon leader, and he went out to his first combat, and he had his rifle, and he was leading from the front, and he realized that when he led from the front, he couldn't see what was going on behind him. And so that was not a good encounter. And what he realized is that the rifle was not his weapon, the platoon was his weapon. And he should be close enough to see what's going on, but not out in front. Because once you get shot, then they don't have a platoon leader, okay? So what he did was he never carried a rifle again. He always carried a .45 and had a radio operator with him. And he managed the combat because the platoon was his weapon. Abimelech went out in front, but made himself a target. And, he lost it all. So anyway, you don't want to elect a king, and you may not want to be very democratic. Okay, so they have a different model for leadership. Anyway, and we'll move on to chapter 10. And we'll have more fun with the judges, okay? So I'll see you next week. Thanks for being a part of the study.